name is Nkechi Taifa, and I am proud to serve as chairperson of the D.C. Commission on Human Rights, and to welcome you to the Commission's Human Rights Awards program. I would like for everyone to pause just for a moment of silence in condolence of the passing of the Nobel Peace Prize laureate and first president of a multiracial democratic government of South Africa and freedom fighter extraordinaire Nelson Mandela, who gave people across the world the strength to speak truth to power. A moment of silence. So again, welcome. For a number of years, the Commission has hosted an event somewhere close to December the 10th in order to recognize the anniversary of the adoption of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For the past 5 years, we have announced the recipient of the Commission's highest honor, the Cornelius Alexander Award, at this event. And for the past 3 years, we have utilized this event as the culmination of an educational effort operated in conjunction with the Georgetown University Law Center's Street Law Clinic to teach high school students about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the D.C. Human Rights Act. Our theme this year is honoring our past, changing the present, and building our future. Tonight, we will honor our past by recognizing two true champions of human rights, the late Cornelius Alexander, the former chief hearing examiner of the Commission on Human Rights, and Dr. Edgar S. Cahn, a living giant in the field of human rights. A living giant. I like the way that sounds. Where is he? There he is. Okay. Tonight, we will continue changing our present by continuing our work as a commission and Office on Human Rights and enforcing the D.C. Human Rights Act. And tonight we seek to continue building our legacy for tomorrow by recognizing the work of our high school youth human rights ambassadors. There are several other prominent people who will be introduced and recognized during the evening, but I just would like to make just a couple of acknowledgments at this time. First, I would like to recognize my fellow Commissioner Matthew McCullough, oh, there he is, okay, for coming up with our theme. Yes, indeed, honoring our past, changing the present, and building our future. Well done, Matthew. And I would like to introduce all of the members of the D.C. Commission on Human Rights who are seated here in the front. Their names are listed in the program, but I would like them to stand as I announce the names. Some are here, and some are out of town. But Michael Ward, Vice Chairperson. Edwin Powell, Secretary. Motoko Azawa. Javier Arojo. Alejandra Benida. Erlene Budd. Raheem Jenkins, Matthew McCullough, Denise Reed, John D. Robinson, Luis Gabriel Rojo, David Shrugs. Our work would not be possible without the tireless efforts of Chief Judge David Simmons. Yeah. And Administrative Law Judges Eli Brook and Diane Havers. And on behalf of the commissioners, really, we thank you. And finally, I would like to recognize, and I'm really quite thrilled to introduce, the new acting director of the D.C. Office on Human Rights, Monica Palacio. Monica, born in Colombia, moved to the United States at the age of 3, grew up in New York, she always knew what she wanted to be in life. She wanted to be a lawyer. But she was from Colombia, and she was a woman. I don't know if you were poor or not. I didn't get all of the bio. But her advisor in school said, law school? I don't think so. But luckily, that did not stop Monica. Okay, and students who are seated here in the front, the human rights ambassadors, that must not stop you either. She applied to 12 different law schools and got accepted into 11. Okay? And her career path ever since then has been dedicated to reducing prejudices in communities and mastering and understanding of different cultures and ethnicities and generations. She's a former commissioner on human rights, and she is a former language access director of the Office of Human Rights. So now I would like to bring forward the new acting director, soon to be director of the DC Office on Human Rights, Monica Palacio.
Commissioner Taifa, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here, and thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. I'm a little bit taller, so I'm going to move the mic. So we're going to do a little bit of history right now. Over 60 years ago, former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and leaders from around the world gathered at the United Nations to push forward a revolutionary document. The preamble of this document read, it would reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of every human person. This document is now known as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it became a landmark achievement for every human being. It's an achievement that would inspire countless others, including our leaders here in the District of Columbia. In 1977, as many of you know, our district leaders would set into law our own Declaration of Human Rights, the most progressive non-discrimination law in the United States. The DC Human Rights Act not only aimed to protect a large number of disadvantaged and marginalized populations from individual and systematic discrimination, but it provided for an accessible and cost-free process for those discriminated against to be able to challenge unfair treatment. As a district resident for 23 years and a longtime advocate for civil rights, I could not be more honored to be leading the district agency that continues to safeguard that process for our city. In the short month now that I've served as acting director, I've reviewed dozens of cases of alleged discrimination and met with activists and constituents from immigrant, transgender, disability, and other communities. And I've been consistently reminded of the vital importance of our work at the Office of Human Rights and the importance of the Commission to the people of the District of Columbia. While the primary work of the Office and the Commission will always be to investigate and adjudicate cases brought by individuals, for the last few years we've also focused our energy on proactive work aimed at preventing discrimination before it happens, whether through trainings by our language access team, assisting schools in implementing bullying prevention policies, or through broader education efforts like our Immigrants Contribute campaign and our transgender and gender identity respect campaigns. Our office is committed to protecting human rights for all in the district. I want to thank you for joining us tonight and celebrating our honorees and our district's commitment to human rights. I want to thank Chief Judge David Simmons, Judge Diane Harris, Judge Eli Brook, and Commission Chair Nkechi Taifa for all their work in putting this important event together. In a few moments, I will have the honor of introducing Mayor Vincent C. Gray, who will be presenting the Cornelius Neal Alexander Humanitarian Award. Just briefly, before I do so, I want to acknowledge that Council members David Grosso and Vincent Orange wanted to be here this evening. Unfortunately, their schedules did not allow. And we do have another very important person in the audience, which is our DC Attorney General, Irv Nathan. So I do want to acknowledge his presence tonight. So thank you to all of you.
I'm sorry, I'm still overwhelmed by the news this evening. And it's very interesting that his passage came around the time of the Human Rights Day. He truly was a stalwart warrior of human rights, and I think it's very fitting that we are here this evening in his honor as well. But tonight, I would like to share with you just a little bit more about the person that we are honoring right here, right now, about this man who has worked on issues of civil and human rights all of his life, and who will receive the Cornelius R. Neal Alexander Humanitarian Award because of his commitment to those who are underserved or disadvantaged. Upon graduation from Yale Law School, Dr. Cahn served as Attorney General Robert Kennedy's special counsel and speechwriter, where he spearheaded the first national campaign against hunger and malnutrition in the United States. In 1963, he co-authored an article published in the Yale Law Review titled "The War on Poverty, A Civilian Perspective." This passionate and intelligent piece is credited as being the blueprint for the Office of Economic Opportunity's National Legal Service Program, which aimed to provide vital legal services to those who could not afford it. His service to the poor continued when he co-founded the Antioch School of Law in 1971, along with his late wife, Jean Camper Cahn. It was the first law school in the United States to educate law students primarily through clinical training and legal services to the poor. This innovative, heart-based approach helped draw attention to the school, and later it became what we know today as the UDC, David A. Clark School of Law. And I know the dean, Shelley Broderick, is somewhere here in the mix. There she is right there. Yes, indeed. And Dr. Cahn teaches at and directs its community service program to this day. Dr. Cahn captured international attention when he led an effort to involve communities in promoting systems of self-help in the late 1980s. He began the Time Dollars Project, a service credit program that is now in more than 70 communities in the United States, Great Britain, and Japan. I was just speaking with Dr. Cahn in the reception area earlier, and he's expanding even, further. He's so full of energy. I mean, he's so full of finesse. He gets things done. That's the type of person he is. That's the type of man that we are honoring here tonight. His use of time dollars as an economic strategy for addressing social problems is described in his books, Time Dollars and No More Throwaway People, The Co-Productive Imperative. Ooh, hear that title? It shows how to mobilize a non-market economy that recognizes and rewards reciprocal contributions of service and caring. Before I go on, if I close this down, will that go off the screen? Because I can't see him. There you are. Okay. I like to see the person I'm talking to, and oh, it does have to be up. Oh. Okay. Okay, that's better. Thank you. Dr. Cahn. We love and respect you. I'm working it, yes. Here in the district, Professor Cahn founded and directs the Time Dollar Youth Court, in which teen juries judge cases of teens arrested for the first time for nonviolent offenses. The court hears 15 to 30 cases each week and approximately 800 cases per year. Professor Cahn was the official advisor to the National Blue Ribbon Commission on Restructuring Juvenile Justice in the District of Columbia. He's now vice chair of the mayor's juvenile advocacy group. And I know that you and your co-author here, the genius behind the Racial Justice Initiative of Time Banks USA. I mean, he just breaks barriers and just creates innovation, all over the place. I'm just honored to just really sit at your feet, really, and learn as I have for so many decades. Dr. Cahn is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Association of American Law Schools William Pinkins Clinical Award for outstanding contributions to clinical legal education, and the National Legal Aid and Defender Association's Charles Dorsey Award for extraordinary and dedicated service to the equal justice community and to organizations that promote, expanding, and improving access to justice for low-income people. And today, he will be adding one more award to that list. And I am very, very, very honored to present, come on up here, okay, the Cornelius Neal Alexander Award to Dr. Edgar Cahn, a longtime citizen of the district, a longtime struggler for social justice and to improving the lives of people in the District of Columbia, in the nation, and in the world. Dr. Cahn. The D.C. Commission on Human Rights and the D.C. Office of Human Rights present the Cornelius Neal R. Alexander Humanitarian Award for outstanding contributions in the field of human rights and steadfast service to the citizens of the District of Columbia, awarded to Edgar S. Cahn, December 5th, 2013.
Commissioners, and I was going to say friends and family, but I should say fellow warriors. I want to honor this audience because I don't think there are that many communities where you would get this kind of assemblage of people who share a commitment to human rights and social justice, and don't just share it in words, but from what I know and from the people whom I've talked to and those whom I've had contact with over the years, this is a group of veterans in those struggles. You don't come to it new. You come to it, each one of you, with a lifetime of commitment and with a fierce devotion to saying, no, we're not going to accept the disparities, the injustices, the deprivation, the inhumanity that we see around us, and we know why we're here. And so I feel a comradeship that one only feels when one is with fellow warriors who know what the struggle means and what it's like. I think it's special for me. No, I'm not polishing my resume. It's special for me to get this award because an award from this city is special to me. I and my late wife, Jean Cahn, came here in the 60s, in 63, but we didn't have a whole lot of choice right then as to where we lived because our marriage was illegal in both Maryland and Virginia. But we chose to stay here after it got to be legal or elsewhere because this is our home. And we made a commitment to this colony that one day we would see equal rights, but we would fight and fight and fight to see that. So I wanted to start off simply saying that an award from this city, from the Human Rights Commission, is very special, has very special meaning to me because this is my home of choice. And the one thing that was a little bit strange was being asked to reminisce about the past, because I live in the future, I live in the present. And I think that we're at an age, at a point in history, where we have unique opportunities to make a change. So I will talk a little bit about the past, but I warn you now that I will also be talking about the future and the job ahead of us, because the job isn't done. Strange to say, I'm not used to doing anything alone. This is a weird experience. As you know, my late wife and I were co-authors of the article, co-founders of Legal Services, co-founders of the Antioch School of Law. So I'm used to doing things, but that goes back a little bit because I never even had the womb to myself. I had a twin sister. And so the idea that the world revolved around me as a lone male, no, that never got a chance to take, you see. She was my elder, and I knew it. I'm also, as I said, not used to looking back, but if I was going to look back at the three things I think that I'm most known for, it's, first of all, the legal service program. I need to tell you a little bit about that. When my late wife and I wrote the article, The War on Poverty, A Civilian Perspective, I was working for Robert Kennedy, and I was told I was going to be fired by all of his assistant attorney generals because it looked like an attack and a critique coming from Robert Kennedy's shop at Lyndon Johnson's Design for a War on Poverty. And I took the weird position that said, how can you fight a war with just professionals? Whatever happened to the consumers? Whatever happened to the poor? When are we going to find a way to amplify their voices to give them a chance to call the shots about what this war is on poverty? And so, as you know, and I was there in Robert Kennedy's shop when this weird phrase, maximum feasible participation, finally made it into the law. And I remember I got Justice Arthur Goldberg to go to Lyndon Johnson to ask, to say, couldn't legal services be in that war? And Lyndon Johnson said, hell no, I'm not going to allow taxpayers' money to pay lawyers to sue me. He didn't know who was going to be writing the regs. When they told me that at the Justice Department this would end my fate, I went to Robert Kennedy and he said, I think I need to ship you to my brother-in-law. And so I was shipped to Sergeant Shriver and became his special assistant. But the condition was that he would print it as the first publication of the Office of Economic Opportunity, and the government printing office, in fact, made a massive printing of it, so it went out massively. I think that, for me, understanding that the people themselves, in that, the poor themselves, had to be co-warriors, had to be troopers with us, that we had to respect their wisdom and we had to respect their direction. And you see that now reflected in the regulations that anything funded by the Legal Services Corporation, there must be clients on the board of those legal service programs. And now my present wife and I are interviewing the clients because for 50 years nobody has honored and recognized the contribution that clients make to equal justice. And we think it's about time somebody not only recognized it and celebrated it, but understood, and this is what you'll be hearing about, how do we enlist the clients as our allies and as the co-producers of justice and as fellow warriors in the struggle that we're all about, and that is the reason why you're here. The second piece, of course, was the founding of the Antioch School of Law. I had this weird notion because when I came out of Yale, I was incompetent to help anybody. I'd never seen a client, never seen a courtroom, never negotiated a contract. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I was actually competent to do something when I got out of law school, other than write law review articles? And so my wife and I said, let's set up a new kind of law school. What you may not know, or what some of you may know, is that every student in those first 9 or 10 years had to live with the clients for the first 6 weeks. And we paid room and board to the clients because we understood whom we were there to serve. And we understood that students coming to the district, and even students who had grown up in the district, might not have the networks to do the kind of job we needed. We did have to go to Lloyd's of London to get malpractice insurance because this was viewed as so unorthodox, and that to allow first-year students to actually talk to clients, that was unheard of in those days. It may still be unheard of now. I think that what we're seeing now was that Antioch understood it was grounded in the community. And I remember an alum telling me he remembered living with a family, and one of the more valuable lessons that his family taught him was how to put shaving cream around the legs of the beds so the cockroaches couldn't climb up. So you get some idea of the levels of privilege that we were providing for students. I think that it's because of that grounding in community that when Antioch fell upon hard times, Hilda Mason and David Clark and others said, they never owned that law school. That law school is the law school of this community. We own it. And it became the UDC David A. Clark School of Law, and I'm so proud to be a faculty member there, and so proud that Shelley, who was the last faculty member whom we hired actually at the UDC David A. Clark School of Law, is at Antioch, is the dean, and giving the kind of leadership and keeping it true to mission and expanding that mission to include the kind of cutting-edge things. So I would ask you all, if you know of any young people who want to be troublemakers, who want to use the law to make a difference, there's a law school here that's waiting for them, and we will give them everything that we can to enable them to cope with the kinds of issues that they have to cope with. And they will have the most diverse student body in the country to be part of, and they will be part of a school which was the first law school in history to start with a founding class that was more than 50% women, and is now, I'm told, 60% women, and about 35 to 40% white, I would say, is approximately what I'm understanding. So this is your law school, and I am part of your law school and part of the city's law school, but we are the law school of the nation's capital, and I'm very proud to be part of it, and proud to greet alums of that school who are in this audience, because in a weird way we still function as family and as extended family. The last thing that I wanted to mention was I came to believe that the disparity that I saw in wealth and in opportunity was unacceptable and intolerable. I came to believe that that I must do something about that, and that meant going into economics, about which I'm reliably told I knew nothing. And so my son Jonathan, who's here, said, "Dad, economists in this country only understand numbers. You need to get off to the London School of Economics and learn some economics." And so I went, and this was after I had had a heart attack in 1980 that blew away, according to the enzyme tests, about 60% of my heart. And they gave me maybe 2 hours a day that I could function, was what their estimate was my fate. And I thought, if I've only got 2 hours, I want to put them to use. And I thought, that was 1980, and there were a lot of other people who were declared useless. There were the unemployed, the disabled, folks on public assistance, teenagers and the elderly, and folks coming back from prison, a few, rather a significant segment of the population. And I thought, I bet they don't like being useless and classified as useless either. And so I said, well, we got all these problems backing up that are being ignored, and all these, quote, useless people. Why can't we put people and problems together? And I said, well, we used to do that with something called money. And if there wasn't going to be any more of that kind of stuff, why couldn't we create a new kind of money? At that point, the assumption was that that heart attack had probably affected another organ, but that nonetheless, I could be let wandering loose on the streets, and then the family said, get over to the London School of Economics, so I did. And that became time banking. I need to correct what Nkechi said. There are now 200 time banks in this country alone, and there are another 400 in England, Scotland, and Wales, and it's spread to 37 countries. It's a currency that is tax exempt and that people earn by helping each other, because it's my belief that we can't get to justice if we don't enlist the community we need to build the kind of community that we want. And if it's not built on respect and equality, so every hour is equal. 1 hour is the unit of credit. And what that means is that we're really creating a new kind of extended family in community. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, but what does it take to build that village and sustain that village if everybody is unemployed and scared and sitting in their apartments or their houses and afraid to come out? You can't build a village if you can't build that infrastructure of trust. And that's, frankly, what we're looking forward to. Now, this is about justice, and I was asked by Ralph Nader to go up to Harvard to shake him up a couple weeks ago, and I read the mission of Harvard Law School, and it said, our mission is to train leaders to advance justice and to promote the public welfare. So I asked them, the first question I asked is, has any professor asked you what justice was or what it meant in 3 years? No, they hadn't been asked. Well, we asked them that the first day, but we don't ask them about justice, we ask them about injustice. And we ask him about injustice because my father taught me that justice itself was too absolute and perfect a concept for people, platonic, for people to grasp. But he thought we were all born with an innate sense of injustice, a capacity to recognize and respond to injustice. And he defined justice as the process by which one either remedied or prevented whatever would arouse our sense of injustice. So our students start off knowing what justice is because it's the process of remedying or preventing injustice. And I'm proud that they learn that the first and second day of law school, and it doesn't stop after that. It keeps going. I do want to say that we need to look forward. I've talked actually too long about the past, and there's so much rich stories that I could share. But I do want to say that we are still a colony. The work is undone. Racism's toxic legacy still affects every public system that we have, whether it's child welfare or juvenile justice or child development or education or reentry or family services or housing or zoning, you name it, we're living with it. And the work isn't going to get done unless all of us not only do it ourselves, but I'm going to say this, if you remember nothing else, we cannot keep outsourcing justice. We cannot. It can't be done just by professionals and government and nonprofits. If we do not enlist the community as partners, we will fail. We will fail valiantly. We will work damn hard, but we will fail. And we need to go to a different level. So at the elementary school, you've heard, I have fifth graders, I call them unemployed teachers, helping the second and third graders learn the alphabet and learn how to read. Because I can't find a public school, a government school, in Wards 7 and 8 where even 50% of the kids are at third grade reading level by the time they enter fourth grade. That's a disgrace. We have plenty of unemployed teachers in the fifth grade, and we're putting them to work helping the second and third graders. You've heard me talk about the youth court, where our teenagers are in charge of making justice work. The recidivism rate before that was around 34%. These teenagers have the power to sentence kids to their peers to community service and restitution and an apology, but they also sentence them to jury duty. So it's not the good kids judging the bad kids, it's former offenders dealing with their peers. They have reduced recidivism to 6%. So these are the bad kids doing more for the rule of law than any other group I know in terms of... We have, and they're earning time credits while they put in those hours, and those are good for their graduation credits, but also they can cash them in for trips and rewards and incentives. And when we get funding, they are able to cash them in for laptops. It's our way of saying, you are contributing to the future, and we want the future open to you. In other places, time credits, and Curtis Watkins is here with the Homecomers Academy, because we were asked, what do we do with people coming out of prison? I said, well, you're busy looking at what's wrong with them. Why don't you look at what's right with them? Because they come back with an awesome array of talent and competence. And so they get up every morning at 6:30 to provide safe passage to kids across gang territory in Wards 7 and 8. So these are, quote, the bad people. These are the throwaway people. These are the people we need to build the village that it takes to raise the children and take care of the elderly. We're now working with returned veterans, homeless veterans. Isn't that a shame? Shocking that we have homeless veterans. But nobody really appreciates that those homeless veterans learn how to build bases. They know how to do all kinds of things. And so the law school is now providing legal services to help those veterans get the benefits that it takes them 8 months for a year to get. But we're asking the veterans to pay it forward by setting up a time bank, and they want to because they have a sense of mission and service. We need to find ways to enlist the communities we're helping as partners and co-producers. Time banking is my method, but it's not the only method. Habitat for Humanity does it in its ways. But I am saying to you that we've got to stop outsourcing justice. We've got to understand that that this is something that the whole community has to produce, and we have to find and design new ways, new institutions, new programs, and a new economics to begin to enable people, God forbid, who spend their lives building community to actually eat. Isn't that a shocking and radical notion? I'm going to say that that's the job of all of us. We're working now with the Office on Aging because the social isolation of the elderly in this community is brutal. It's depressing, and no amount of formal services are the same as an extended family. And we can build that extended family by simple things like potlucks, by comings together, by projects. We're doing it in 40 other states and 37 other countries. My wife and I, Chris, decided, wouldn't it be good if we brought that home to our own hometown and started time banking? So I want to partner with all of you to do that. I do want to say the job isn't over. All of us have that job. And I would simply add that I'd like to end with the last paragraph or so of a credo that Jean and I wrote, which became the official credo of the law school about 2 years ago. And it ends this way. I must believe that the voices of love shall prevail over the voices of hate, and the forces of justice shall triumph over the forces of injustice and inhumanity. That I believe. But in the here and now, there can be no safety, no easy way, and at each point our faith will be tested, and when weighed in the balance, if we are honest, our best efforts will be found wanting. This too is true, I believe. And so all that we have in the here and now, and I say this to you directly, is our love for each other, our willingness to forgive each other, our willingness to come to each other's rescue, and our unwillingness to stand by, silent or passive, in the face of injustice. This is my belief. This was our joint belief, Jean's and mine, and this we shall try to honor. I swore, so long as life and breath permit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cahn, for your inspiring words. We are thrilled to have you as our honoree tonight. And I now have the honor of introducing a man who has consistently championed human rights, both as a resident of the district and as a leader in the district. As many of you know, Mayor Gray began his career working on behalf of people with developmental disabilities, spent a decade of his life serving homeless and at-risk youth, and as chair of the City Council worked to bridge the divides between the dynamic and diverse communities within the district. He is a leader who understands the needs and concerns of underserved and marginalized populations. And he is someone who always lends an ear to so many who often feel ignored by political leaders and the political process. As our mayor, Vincent C. Gray, has also championed and consistently supported the work and valued the efforts of the Office of the Human Rights and the Commission on Human Rights, for which I and my staff are extremely grateful. I am now proud to introduce to you our mayor, Vincent C. Gray.
Thank you very much, Monica, for such a nice introduction. I wish I had gotten here earlier because I was the one that was supposed to do the citation for tonight's awardee, Dr. Edgar Cahn. And it was great, Dr. Cahn, to sit there and listen to you talk about the things that are important to so many of us. And I really want to apologize for not having the opportunity to present the award to you myself. But I am delighted to be here. And delighted to be here. It's wonderful to see so many people who are here. And I see my dear friend Shelley Broderick back there, who does such a great job with the law school at this point. You know, one of the things I would have said had I been here a little earlier is that talking about the Antioch School of Law, there is a nexus to my history and the creation of the Antioch School of Law. You know, if you're not a troublemaker if what you do in making trouble is self-righteous. So I was, of course, self-righteous enough to think that we weren't making trouble back in the day. but that we really were doing good. And in all seriousness, I really think we were. We were working on behalf, this was very early in my career, the beginning essentially. I was working for the Association for Retarded Citizens. And we were working with a group of people. You know, we got the kind of the rhetoric that said, we have this institution, what we need to do is fix it up and make a better place. And there were some of us heretics who said, you can't make this place any better. There's no way. And you need to close this place down and turn it into, you know, to an opportunity for people to live in an integrated way in the community. And that we believe that there are constitutional rights that are being violated. And as you might imagine, there were very few people, virtually none, who wanted to take a case like that. But guess who took the case? The Antioch School of Law took that case. And we worked assiduously over several years. And it was fortunate that we got to a point where the city's leadership did not want to wind up in a protracted court battle because there was an election that was coming up, and they wanted to be able to figure out how they could possibly get this thing settled before an election took place. We had some great attorneys working with us, as you will remember Dr. Cahn, who was involved with this along with your wife at the time in helping to lead this battle. And we got a settlement that was unbelievable. That happened because folks just didn't want to have to fight this out in court. We got an agreement. We reached an order that said we will shut down Forest Haven and move everybody in to the community. It was only the second time in the nation that such an order had been issued. The first one was at Pennhurst, which was in right outside of Philadelphia, and they had a horrific court battle in order to get to that. But we were able to get through it through a negotiated settlement. Now, I wish I could say that it was easy to have accomplished that, but it wasn't. Because once we got that order, then the real work started. It took us then, after that, it took us 13 years to be able to get full compliance with that order. We went from having 1,300 people in an institution in Laurel, Maryland. I don't know how many of you have ever been to Forest Haven, but it was absolutely horrid and horrific. And the more disabled you were, the more likely you were to live in squalid conditions where you didn't have programming, and it was out of sight and out of mind. But we were able, after 13 years, thanks to the work of working with the Antioch School of Law, we eventually were able to get the Department of Justice to come in as a plaintiff intervener that put resources into this, and we became only the second state, if you will, state, only the second state in the nation to be institution-free, that everybody who had lived in that institution moved into the community, and we don't have any institutions anymore in the District of Columbia. Thank you. Thank you, Edgar Cahn, for your leadership and bringing the law to bear on the rights of people and making it a true crusade. The people who have benefited from that, there's a class that's still around 500 or 600 people. They're still benefiting from the defense of now the UDC School of Law, because they have taken over the case, and they will be fully represented until the day we don't need to do that anymore. So what a great accomplishment by Edgar Cahn, his wife, those who were associated with the Antioch School of Law, who took on a band of rebels in the community to fight for the rights of a group of people with developmental disabilities who otherwise would not have been represented. So that's what I would have said, Dr. Cahn, and I'm glad to be able to say it now. And by the way, if I can tell one more story, I was actually on, when it became the District of Columbia School of Law, I was on the board of directors for that school. And how I got on that board, you mentioned Hilda Mason. I got a call at 6 a.m. one morning from Hilda Mason. And asked me to be on the board of directors of the D.C. School of Law. And at 6 a.m., I would have agreed to anything. And I think, you know, when you add Hilda Mason to the mix, you didn't turn down Hilda Mason because she and Charlie were two of the finest people that I ever met. If you ever wanted to meet two people who deeply cared about humanity and human beings, it was Hilda and Charlie. So I was proud to be on that board when we got it started. And Shelley was around when that board got started. She was in a different capacity. And then when it moved to the UDC, she took on the responsibility of running that law school. And she has done a fantastic job of bringing that law school to where it is today, ladies and gentlemen. And I am excited. I'm happy to be here as a part of the Human Rights Commission's program. I try to get here as much as I can, working with Gustavo Velasquez, who was Monica's predecessor. And by the way, I think we have a great director in Monica. As I assume you know, she ran the Language Access Program prior to taking on this responsibility, and that means, of course, that we will be expecting us to step up our efforts and do more on language access so that people who want to be able to communicate will not be confined to a situation where they don't understand what's going on around them, not because of intellectual incapacity, but because they happen to be listening in terms that are not acceptable to them. So, Monica, I know you're going to lead us in that effort, and I'm looking forward to that being the case. So, with all that being said, now I'll get to, you know, having listened to Dr. Cahn do his presentation, which was obviously quite eloquent. We now want to present. Oh, you, David? Judge Simmons?
Thank you so much, Mr. Murphy. Good to see you. Okay. Thank you. 3 years ago, the Commission on Human Rights came up with the idea of a Youth Human Rights Ambassador program. In a nutshell, the idea was to train and empower the next generation of human rights advocates and activists. The high school students are trained about the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the D.C. Human Rights Act. They're then asked to develop a creative project demonstrating their understanding of human rights. The projects displayed tonight, you saw out in the reception area, are a sample of the creativity possessed by our students in the D.C. public schools. You always hear what's wrong with our D.C. public schools, but you rarely hear how talented, creative, and hardworking our students, teachers, and administrators are. I want to commend all of those students, and in just a moment the mayor will name the high school students who have created these projects and will announce the 3 top projects and the winners of those projects. However, before we get to that, I need to thank all of the people who helped make this entire event and the Human Rights Ambassador Award Program possible. The Georgetown Street Law Clinic, the director, Professor Richard Rowe, fellows Melinda Cooperman and Efren Merriman. The Georgetown law students who taught in the law clinic, if you look in your program, you'll see all of their names listed there. I'd like to acknowledge the cooperating teachers from the D.C. public schools and their principals, because only with the support of those teachers and those principals could such a program like this happen in the school, and they need acknowledgement for all they do. I apologize, but I have a list of shout-outs, and these are the people who made it possible, and if I don't do the shout-outs, they'll never help me again. So bear with me. First, I'd like to start with my colleagues from the Commission staff, Judge Diane S. Harris and Judge Eli Brook. Current law clerks, Christina Cobb and Judy Bennett Garner. Former law clerks, and they will tell you, it shows once you've worked for us, you never get away. Chanel Henry, Daniel Harara, Erica Akins, Rohini Singh, Shakisha O'Connor. Colleagues from our Office on Human Rights, Gustavo Velasquez, the former director who helped start this initially, Monica Palacio, who has been a dream and given us everything we needed to make this event as fabulous as it is tonight. Elliot Imsey, the Director of Public Policy and Communication, who has designed all these beautiful graphics in the program. Stephanie Franklin, who is behind the scene running all, and you see them flip. That's Stephanie's magic back there. She knows what's happening. Stephanie. Volunteers from the office, Suzanne Greenfield, Al Santiago, Diana Gaudet, Amy Peoples, Jamie Wodowski. The evaluation committee, the chair was Charisma Howell. She isn't with us, but the hard part after we got these great projects was to fairly judge them. Charisma did a great job. You may disagree with her, but they were absolutely done fairly, properly, rightly. The members of the planning committee, they're listed. Now, we have a short video that will give you a little flavor of the event that was held on November 20th over at the Georgetown Law School. The title was Teens Take on Human Rights, and it's a little 2-minute video. And then we will bring the mayor back to you to present the top 3 awards. There's one other thing. We have a special award. This year, Monica funded us so well that we wound up with a $100 gift card more than we needed for the students. And it was decided between Street Law and the Planning Committee that one of the cooperating teachers who has just been a supporter over the years of this program should be awarded that. So if you'll see me after the program from Eastern High School, Mr. Kevin Beauregard, we have a $100 gift certificate for you.